Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Minh and I'm your co-host with all the other staff from NDIS Property Australia, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast, a show that explains, highlights, guides and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Today is our final podcast for the year, and you're here sitting in front of everyone here, Matt, Eryn, Luba, Grace, Debbie, Nyomi, Kendall and Donna. Everyone, welcome.
Hello. Okay, so this is very exciting. It's the end of the year. We are going to have a little year in review podcast talking about what our achievements have been this year, what we've learnt this year, what challenges we've faced this year. And to start it, I think we should start with our podcast. Eryn, maybe, do you want to tell us a little bit about how the podcast has gone this year?
It's pretty good. We reached 10,000 streams officially. Was it last week? I think it was last week. So that's across all of our episodes. And then in February, we're releasing our 100th episode. So I think this is 90, this one. So yeah, it's going pretty well. We've had a lot of guests and we have a lot of guests lined up and there's a lot coming and it's very exciting. Luba's got some notes. I can see it next to me if you want to say a little bit.
Great job, Eryn. Eryn has been amazing at, keeping up with all the episodes, editing them and making sure that it's all published. It's all published. So we are on Spotify, aren't we? Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find us pretty much on every single podcast platform that you like or prefer to use. So that's my 5 cents.
Thanks. Any more to add on the podcast, Eryn?
I'm pretty sure, with confirmation from Minh, I think we're launching a sort of sub-series of the podcast next year. And it's about, SDA Unlocked, is that?
Yeah, it's more technical data. I think we've realised this year that a lot of the our listeners and a lot of the community around Australia, they don't really know the numbers behind the SDA data and the research and supply and demand. And I think it'll be good for us to do one episode per month, just 12 next year, a detailed podcast every month about a focus location for that moment, about the pipeline builds, the supply of stats of the pipeline build coming out, the demand of participants, and a breakdown of all those numbers we go through all the time. Briefly in the recent episode of the tools and research materials we have access to. So it'd be good for us to show our listeners how we go through all that as well in more detail. Don't you reckon, Debbie?
I do, but rather than talking too much about what we're going to be doing next year, let's go back to what we have achieved this year. Minh, I want to ask you a question. We've moved into some new areas of focus. So we're away from the podcast now. We're talking about just in general as our business. What have we moved into this year?
I think we've moved into more geographical, diverse locations like Tasmania and Perth. Wouldn't you agree, all?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like we've more towards the start of this year. We were kind of mostly in Queensland, I would say. We did a bit in Melbourne, but we've definitely moved into Tasmania, Adelaide, Perth, much more aggressively, I'd say, just to obviously capitalise on the demand.
And it's all about opportunity, Matt.
Yep.
Because there's only so much work that one can do as a business in one particular area. We've gone to more geographic. That's what, to answer your question, Debbie. But more so with Grace, we're moving to more sophisticated, how would you call it, development sites. Wouldn't you agree, Grace?
Yes, at the moment now we're finding that we've got a lot of developers and builders coming out of the woodworks, basically. They're just coming to us and say, show us what you've got, we want to build, and we want to keep some of them, and we are happy to continue building for you, for your clients as well. So a lot of larger sites coming through, and having said that, we've also got a lot of buyers out there considering buying that as investments. And what we've found is there's a lot of investment groups, not necessarily the big ones like Australian Unity or Bowen, but individual smaller groups with, $20 million, $30 million just waiting to spend.
I think just to elaborate with what Grace said, there's then development sites and projects is the key word there. So there are people coming out of woodworks to offload those sites, to acquire those sites, to fund those sites, to ask us to help out with pre-sales of those sites. So in the traditional word of developments, project marketing developments, the same thing is now applying with NDIS now. But back to what Grace said, these little sites, big and small, are coming up more now on our list. And Grace is very excited to work with our more sophisticated buyers and larger groups to handle these transactions as well.
Okay, so let's move on now to the contracts process that we have developed very well this year with Nyomi leading the way and Donna assisting her. So Nyomi, if you can tell us a little bit about what you've been up to this year.
So basically, we have been trying to streamline our contracts process, making sure that we are involved in as many steps of the purchase as we can be, to make sure that we've got all of our buyers' paperwork ready to go to try and make that purchase go as smoothly as possible, from the signing of an EOI to deposits to signing of contracts, making sure that payments are met with builders, all the way down to handovers, which we've finally achieved.
Donna, any comments from you about challenges this year?
Yeah, the challenge is actually the money side. I look after the money side, as in contracts. So it's a case of chasing up and sort of hoping to get people to understand that we all know money's important, but it really has to marry up with the paperwork. So,
and you're referring to payment for slabs and frames and
payments, yes, payments especially. Everything's got to work synchronised for everything to work, because once again, if it's not synchronised, we're going to have delays, and no one wants delays. No one wants to be paying interest on their loans because nothing's happening.
Donna and Nyomi, we've had a few clients get frustrated and angry about the delays through no fault of their own, weather, supplies, labour. How have you handled those frustrations from investors this year?
Unfortunately, there's not really much that anyone can do with these, because it's a trickle down effect. You have one cancellation due to weather. You're rescheduling your deliveries, you're rescheduling your labourers, everyone is very overworked. And so unfortunately that has been setting everything back weeks, months for some labourers. But we do try and keep everyone updated. Obviously our buyers are calling in, trying to find out why, and obviously we try and connect them to the builder to give them an explanation.
And the biggest bottleneck, I think we all agree here, Donna, is the councils. With the building approval, the development approvals, don't you agree?
I do. I don't understand. Well, I do understand. Being an Australian voter, I know exactly. I understand. And yeah, it is very frustrating. So I do feel for the buyers. I really do. And the builders, everybody else who's sort of copying the brunt of it, when, obviously they do need more staff to keep things moving. And that's the biggest problem.
I guess at the end of the day, what we're telling you is that we are doing our utmost best to keep on top of it, to assist you as the buyer. To just be patient, and things will eventually get back to a better state of play in the building industry. We know it's hard. Okay, I think let's move on now to the sales and the sales support process. Matt, tell us about what's happening from your perspective.
I feel like it's been a bit of a change in terms of the sales process. We've moved from kind of home and land packages to very, I suppose, contracts which are more straightforward, to more of a collaborative element, to people who want to work with different people in the industry to achieve certain outcomes that maybe are a bit more nuanced, or they have, a situation where they have a certain development they want to do, and they either want our assistance with that or they want to be connected to the right people who can help with that. And we've also noticed kind of a change from, I would say, the sale of home and land packages more towards units and apartments. And I think that's partially just to do with obviously it's a more simplified process. And we've spoken about it before, just like the delays on new estates. I think that's in the mind of a lot of investors as well. Yeah.
Great. So what have you seen we've improved on or we've achieved this year in terms of our sales process or the lead up to sales process? I guess bringing in Kendall here with how you're involved.
So you're saying improvements on the sales process?
And achievements.
Achievements. Oh, buddy. I don't know. Just staying on top of it. Just trying to, from our side, trying to get as much information as possible, because that's the main concern. Really, people coming through and they're like, because SDA's, it's been around for a couple of years, but still, in the grand scheme of things, it's very, very young, and it's also people look at that and be like, oh, it's a real estate, but there's so many differences. So when people are calling up, there's so much they don't know, or that they don't know that there is to be known, because there's so many interesting facets to it.
I went to Perth recently, and there was a little networking roundtable event, and there was discussed and it was agreed to that SDA is not a property play. If you're going into SDA thinking about normal property investment and property, that's not true. Because you got to understand that the SIL and the support work beside it. If you don't understand the support side of it all, the transaction won't work.
It's a business, not a property investment.
Yeah, it's not a property investment. Although, yes, it's a house or a unit as the foundation of what it is, but even in an empty dwelling, there's no income. So you're not really achieving what you're trying to achieve. It's all about the participants and the providers and the families. That's the key thing here. And if you don't understand that concept, you won't understand SDA. I think if that's the small takeaway there.
Yeah, it's like a weird combo of it's like involved in so many parties, but also at the end of the day, you're looking at cause in normal real estate, you're like, oh, build a house. If it's somewhere that's not awful, people will rent it. That's just going to happen eventually. Whereas if with SDA households, you really have to know who you're building it for.
And the money follows the participant. It doesn't follow the property.
Exactly. Yeah. So you really want to make a house that will cater to people in the area, which you'll get more around to once you have a chat, at a provider or something. You'll have a better idea around the providers in the area that you can assist, on a personal level as well. It's not only good for them, it's very good for them, but it's good for you as well, because they'll stay there and they'll want to stay there. And that's the main takeaway, having people stay.
Yeah. So I guess at the end of the day, our sales process has been to very much improve the way we're communicating this information to our potential buyers.
Much so.
Yeah. Hopefully I communicated that.
Yeah, and I guess that leads into the next topic, which is marketing, which I want to hand over to Eryn and Luba.
Me?
So Luba, tell us a bit about the marketing initiatives or achievements that we have had this year.
This year, I think it has been exciting. I'll probably elaborate on what Kendall just said, and you, Debbie, about communicating the whole thing, the whole investment, and everything that is involved. So, and particularly this notion that we have to put participant and their families and carers in the centre when we're thinking about this investment. So in our, social media accounts, we've been very vocal about that. So just trying to, say it as many times as possible because it's crucial, I guess. So,
but also, Luba,
yeah.
I mean, the social media outreach you're doing on the platforms there is bringing us more exposure to the SIL providers, support coordinators. It is.
Yeah.
And we are making a conscious effort as a business to spend time with these organisations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is the key here. Our marketing has brought, our marketing, although digital, has brought us to the forefront of the minds of the local SIL providers, locally and also interstate, to be more involved with what they're doing out there.
So Instagram was very powerful in that sense. LinkedIn, I find. But also visiting all the expos. This year was massive. Just every single disability expo that exists in Australia, we've probably
Went to most of them.
Yeah, we went to most of them. And just connecting on the personal level with those providers and other NDIS businesses was just amazing for us. So what have we achieved throughout this year?
I want to say one big achievement from Luba. That if I look back this year, there's one thing she did which I'll forever be grateful for. One thing only. One thing only. One thing in my mind, sorry. That stands out above everything else. Okay. And that is her Instagram work brought in Angad Singh from Sedar Constructions, which opened us our awareness and exposure into the Perth market in Western Australia. And since then, we've been so active, being there and consciously being there all the time and supporting the Western Australia, West Coast market.
Which is, of course, the newest SDA market in Australia. It was the last state to bring in SDA funding across the board. So I guess, our marketing initiatives have really been an attempt by us to make it known that we're not just a real estate agent. We are in this niche area as consultants to all stakeholders. We're bringing everyone together and we're bringing the knowledge to everyone that we can on every different aspect of SDA housing, which is what this podcast is all about. Yeah. Anyone have any more to comment on our achievements?
Yeah,
Luba?
I actually was going to add, so talking about Angad just now. So this is an amazing builder from WA, Perth, and that's great connection that we now have led us to go into Perth market, which is very, very, very new. SDA market, I mean. So that's a very great collaboration. And
But just jumping in, the reason why Lou is raising this and I'm raising this is because it's very hard for us to come across another organisation to share the same philosophy and share the ethics and values that we share and we believe in. It's important to our listeners, right? No matter where you are in Australia, no matter what kind of business you are doing in the SDA market, just do business with people you feel comfortable with and you share the same values, because there's no use in doing business in any form of relationship if you don't agree to the same reasons why you should be doing business together. And Angad, he's been on our podcast 3 times now already, another one coming up with a valuer coming up soon. All right, Eryn? So it's important that you as a listener do business with people you believe in and they believe in you and for what you represent. Yeah.
I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. And I guess for this year, our biggest finding, if I just narrow it to one sentence, is that that formula, that education and sharing our connections with other businesses involved in SDA realm, and really educating our customers about this investment. This is very powerful. So that's why people want to come to us, because they feel that we have this knowledge that we ready to share.
On our website, there's our partners page. We're slowly building and adding people we believe in, organisations that we believe in, we want to support, and so forth. That's one big change, hasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, I feel like I was just kind of leaning into that as well, that we've kind of played a more active role in the community as far as the NDIS SDA working with people. And I think something noteworthy that we haven't mentioned is us kind of being an active member, gold sponsor in the Tasmanian Expo. I feel like throughout early parts of the year, we would attend conferences, we'd talk to people there, but we weren't playing an active role, and I think that's been super exciting.
Yeah.
Us moving forward, I suppose reaching out more into the community.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, so I guess that leads on to my next question. What have we learnt during the course of this year as a team?
Well, I was going to say, personally, I've learned everything I know about SDA. I only started about 6 or 7 months ago, so I've had to pack a lot of stuff into my head, and hopefully I'm able to pass it along to you, the customer. But I think even as a whole, I'll probably have something to say about that.
Yeah, I think what we've learned is that I want to go back to my recent trip to Perth, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why we spent so much resources and time and effort and money on Hobart and Perth is because they are two very distant markets away from the East Coast. So Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, here we are on the East Coast. Tasmania is at the very far end, at the bottom of Australia, and Perth is on the far west side. And them being very distant locations, they're a little bit behind in their maturity of the market for SDA. And with immaturity means opportunity, and with opportunity means there's places for our investors and collaborators to work together with to deliver product in areas of most need. So what have we learned? We learned that a lot of people still don't understand SDA, both new investors and also market players. Okay? Because no one knows everything. I mean, we're continually learning ourselves. We are SDA specialists, but even still, there's a lot to learn. And as part of the whole collaboration in the SDA environment, we need to understand more of the SIL side of it all as well. The ILO, the SIL, we're still new to that ourselves.
We are new to that. We've actually just recorded a podcast which will be coming out in February with Higher Up, a couple of episodes, and that's really focusing on the SIL and the ILO side of things. So, yeah, I guess we now understand over this year how difficult, how complex the whole SDA space is, and by no means are we putting ourselves out as experts in this field. We are still learning. We know that we don't know all of it. We don't know half of it yet. And I guess that's really the crux of what we've learned.
We're doing our best to refer people on to other experts, be it assessors and architects and builders and designers, where we're now venturing more into the design side. Like we're talking now to 2 different design groups that have been referred to us from Adapt Housing, locally here in Brisbane, so 2 building designers. We're now getting more involved with the raw development sites, as Grace said earlier, and that's more fun for her, I guess, and for us, we're in the business of delivering SDA product across Australia, and that may be a house, that may be a unit, that may be a development site, whatever it is, and we're here to invite people to talk to. We invite people to these events as well, and a lot of the invitations we sent out who came along to the Hobart event, they loved the event, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. They did.
Yeah. So you don't know what you don't know. That's what we've learned. And as the scale of our volume goes bigger and bigger, we're finding it more easier to work with the bigger sites to actually really create the product from scratch.
Indeed.
Because without funding and sales and funding really is the key word here, these sites won't get off the ground. And we're talking about sites, we're talking about 10 units, 15 units, villa sites which are 10-pack, 4-pack, 6-pack, whatever they are. So we're spending a lot more work in the words are project marketing, acquisition side of the developments, to this market of SDA, which needs it because it's just so complex, this whole process, isn't it?
Oh, it is indeed. And I guess that leads me on to challenges that we have faced and how we've addressed those. For example, finding new ways to future-proof these investments for our potential buyers. Who would like to talk more about this?
Matt, start?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the way that we've kind of changed as a business is by working more with other people, by collaborating more, we're kind of expanding the service we offer, both in terms of what we can do just for a client, but also on the product side, what we can offer in terms of certain developments, certain projects that cater to different elements of the, I suppose, tenancy process, the process of an SDA. I think that's been a big change that we've kind of,
I went to Perth a few weeks ago and I actually confronted the crowd. I said to them, this is not at them, but I said to them generically, I said, look, we all talk about future-proofing and custom design and delivering for people, but what does that mean? Tell me what it means. I mean, words are cheap. You give me lots of nice words and I like the words, but can you tell me exactly what you mean by that? And they'll give me an answer. I said to them, well, who's actually been in a house, NDIS house? Like one or two, that's about it, or the room of 30. So, hence the reason why we're traveling around Australia. We're creating ideas, we're showing ideas to people to say, look, how about this motor vehicle modification? How about extra storage? How about fire sprinklers? How about all these different elements of changes to a house or a unit which are suitable? And we want to share that with providers that, do you think this is a good idea? And I say yes, and yes, and yes. So by sharing those ideas and getting agreement, we share that to our developers and our bigger investors to implement these things to make the homes better. Because research and statistics are all about understanding what the market is doing or about to do. And if we can avoid mistakes on the East Coast and share it to the West Coast, then that's what we're trying to achieve here. So, yeah, we've learned a lot of things this year, Debbie.
I think we have. What are some of the other challenges that we've been faced with? For example, the financial side of things for buyers, harder lending.
Matt, you want to give your thoughts about challenges?
Some of the big challenges would be build times. I feel like it's stabilised a little bit, or at least it hasn't increased, but build times have been a big challenge. Valuation, interest rates, uncertainty about the future. Those have been, I guess, off the top of my head, what's come to mind with people investing and just, can I justify this? I don't know what's going to happen in the market. Anything, Nyomi, that you think has been a challenge?
No, I think you've hit them mostly on the head. I mean, obviously, there's been new with the issues in the building industry, and lenders being a bit hesitant, over the future of the builders. It's introduced some new complications. One of the things is lenders are now doing on-site inspections or valuations at each claim stage of the build, which is just extending time out, which is obviously adding on to the build times. But we have seen a slight pickup in the end stages of the build process. Getting to your enclosed stage might still be a bit of a slog with issues with concreters and carpenters and deliveries. But it seems to be that once we hit that enclosed stage, it has been picking up. So as you say, there is a slight pick up with that. But yeah, with the finance side, that there's still a bit of hesitancy. I think we've been seeing, so which is another reason why they're moving more into units.
As we've evolved this year, Nyomi, we have brought a lot of awareness to the community, to people we talk to because of the podcast. There's just so many inquiries about everything. So by having this podcast this year, having 10,000 downloads, people come to us saying, we've listened to your podcast, we know what you think, we agree with you, and can we work with you? So we've overcome a bit of education, misinformation, lack of education in the marketplace by having this podcast achieve what it's achieved, I think. And people now understand that there are challenges with builds, there are challenges with finance, there are challenges with valuations, which makes our job and our lives easier because we don't have to explain it again because, don't you agree? That's much
Yeah, that's definitely been a big help.
So I think that kind of wraps up what we wanted to cover with what we've achieved this year, our year in review. I'll take this opportunity now to go around the table and ask anybody for their final words.
Final words of advice from everyone.
Yes.
Luba, what are your words of advice?
Keep learning and communicate it. Communicate the topic as clearly as possible. Find words, easy words to understand. Yeah, that's my advice.
I guess my advice is listen to the podcast.
Good advice. Solid advice.
All of that.
My advice would just be recognise that it's a learning experience, that it requires more than just, if you're an investor, requires more than just putting the money on the table, that you have to play an active role in your own self-education. Obviously, we're here to help you every step of that journey, but just recognise that there's going to be a lot of learning required if you want to achieve the results you want to achieve. And just, reach out to us, listen to the podcast, like Eryn said, and learn as much as you can, and that will put you in a good step to move forward.
My final words of advice are: do not rush any decision to jump into the SDA market if you don't understand it. There's no rush. Take your time, and just talk to as many people as you can to make sure that your decision is ideal for yourself. Yeah.
What I picked up is something that Minh said earlier, is actually learning this is not just an investment, which I'm an investment person. So it's something that, my eyes lit up when Minh said that. Understand the people that are going to be living in your property. They're not going to be quick, stay 6 months and disappear. They do need certain things and they will stay. So learn more about actually the people who will be living in that house of yours.
Mm.
Probably more on what Donna said as well. My tip, essentially, going from what Donna was saying, just learning around the client is really important too. And also with the ways of future-proofing as well. If you understand the clients, they'll be living there. And if you actually talk to them or have an understanding. So example, if someone has like a degenerative disease or something, they could be IL, but then in a couple of years, they could be FA or HPS. Then at that point, it's like, well, are you going to kick them out? Like, it's, if you know about these situations, you can prepare for those. And also listen to the podcast. I think that'll be very handy too. What do you think?
Probably my biggest takeaways is communication. As Luba said, it just through the whole process, and patience.
Yep, we're all here to help you with your SDA purchase. So we don't want to rush you into doing anything, but we would love to give you as much information as we can to help you understand the whole investment strategy that you are looking to purchase. So take your time, come back to us, ask as many questions as you want. We're just here for you. And this is something that we want you to understand, that we're not like other agents. We do care, and we do want to make sure that you understand the process and what you're doing before we sell you something.
So to wrap that all up, at the end of the day, we are here to build homes for some of Australia's most needy disabled who need a home that they can live in with independence. They can have choice and control in their life, choice and control with who they live with. There's such a desperate undersupply of these homes, and we're here to help them have a home. We want to work with the buyers, the other stakeholders throughout Australia to make that happen. And we're still learning. We want to help you learn with us. And that is what this is all about.
Debbie, before we wrap it up and wish everyone a Merry Christmas, please confirm our close and open dates and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, we will be closed from the 20th of December to the 16th of January.
Though one or two of us may be available for the odd meeting or phone call here and there over that period,
Yeah, but if you're just after a general inquiry, then bear with us and we will get back to you in the second half of January when we're back on board. So have a very Merry Christmas to all our listeners and a wonderful New Year. And we'll see you in January.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.